In today's video, we're going to talk about the torture and murder of a teenage girl, a girl who, at a young age, met a middle-aged man, trusted him, and fell into his trap. The case of a girl who marked one of the most horrific murders in British history. If you enjoy this type of case, don't forget to like and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes. Kelly Ann Bates was born on May 18, 1978, in England. Her parents were named Margaret and Tommy Bates, and from childhood, Kelly was very close to her parents. They had a good relationship, and according to Margaret, Tommy, and those around them, Kelly was a kind and polite girl. She had a sociable and friendly personality, easily connected with people, and had many friends. In 1993, when Kelly was still 14 years old, she sometimes worked part-time as a babysitter. During one of these babysitting jobs, she met a man named Dave Smith. Dave got close to Kelly, and after a short time, he entered into a relationship with this 14-year-old child. Kelly talked to her parents about Dave, but never mentioned the significant age gap between them. After 2 years, Kelly and Dave's relationship was still ongoing in 1995. During these 2 years, Kelly transformed from an obedient girl who completely followed her parents' words into a rebellious and short-tempered teenager. She would often sneak out of the house and lie to her parents about where she was going and with whom. Dave Smith had extremely controlling behavior and, through this, would speak to Kelly's parents on the phone. When Kelly was supposed to return from Dave's house, he would personally put her on the bus. Then, when he knew the bus would arrive at its destination and Kelly would be home, he would call her parents to see if she had arrived. If Kelly was late by even a few minutes, Dave would literally go crazy. He would interrogate Kelly extensively, asking where she was, who she was with, what she was doing, and why she was late. During this same period, as Dave's behavior became this controlling, Kelly would come home with noticeable injuries and bruises on her body. These injuries were clearly caused by beatings, but Kelly would lie to her parents, telling them she had fallen down, fallen off the bed, accidentally hurt herself, and similar lies. One time, Kelly came home with half of her face bruised. Her mother questioned her extensively, but Kelly insisted she had gotten into a fight with a random girl on the street and that's what happened to her. Her mother told her she was lying, and Kelly had no other response. Another time, her mother saw a bite mark on Kelly's hand, which was a relatively deep wound and was getting infected. Kelly had no explanation for this injury, just like all the other wounds and bruises on her body. With things as they were, 16-year-old Kelly Bates left school and decided to move into Dave's house. Kelly's parents had spoken to Dave on the phone many times, but they met their daughter's boyfriend for the first time when Kelly moved in with him. It was then they realized that Dave Smith was not only not their daughter's age but was 32 years old. Kelly's mother said about her first meeting with Dave, "The moment I saw Dave Smith, the hairs on my body stood up. I did everything in my power to keep that man away from Kelly." This meant that when they met, Kelly was 14 and Dave was 30. Kelly's parents never thought that this polite boyfriend who had been dating their daughter for 2 years could be so much older. The moment they saw Dave, Margaret, and Tommy knew this guy wasn't normal, and the uneasy feeling he gave off was completely separate from the fact that he was in a relationship with a 14-year-old child. They told Kelly she was forbidden from seeing this man and had to end their relationship. But, as we all know, insisting on some things can have the opposite effect. It was the same in this case, and Margaret and Tommy's opposition to the relationship caused Kelly to become even closer to Dave. The situation was so bad that Kelly's parents feared more than anything that their daughter would leave them forever and never come back. Because of this fear, they tried to proceed very cautiously to at least not lose the relationship between themselves and Kelly. If only they had known that losing their parent-child relationship was far better than losing Kelly completely. Kelly Bates was no longer an energetic girl. She didn't enjoy interacting with other people. She didn't laugh. She didn't take care of herself. She didn't even bathe regularly. She distanced herself from everyone, and her entire life revolved around Dave Smith. Dave wouldn't let Kelly wear nice clothes, wear makeup, or be friendly with others. He did everything he could to make her feel worthless, perhaps so she would never go to someone else and cheat on him. For people who have never struggled with unhealthy relationships or domestic violence, it's very easy to say that if such a situation happened to us, we would definitely leave the person. The reality of domestic violence is much, much deeper than that. As I said in previous videos, in cases of toxic relationships or domestic violence, the victim is abused by someone they love and who is dear to them. Someone to whom they have a strong emotional attachment in the first place, who is considered part of their family, and for all these reasons, even accepting that they are a victim is difficult for them. Many victims of domestic violence not only don't want to accept they are victims, but they genuinely don't know that the conditions they are living in are wrong. Abusers in these cases can easily manipulate the victim emotionally. Now, imagine how much more vulnerable a victim would be if they were a 14 or 16-year-old teenager. Now, write an answer for me in the comments. Is this the same as Stockholm Syndrome or not? Most unhealthy relationships aren't toxic from the very beginning. The abuser comes forward with a pleasant demeanor and gains the other person's trust. People always tell victims, "Why did you let them hurt you?" And the point is precisely that these abusers make it so the victim loses all the control they have in the relationship. No power of choice or self-confidence remains. There is no "why did you let them do that?" And in the first place, the verb to let no longer has meaning for the victim, as the power to make decisions has been taken from them. As I said before, Kelly moved into Dave's house in November 1995. According to her family, Kelly's living situation got worse day by day, and now that she was literally living with Dave, she was practically at this abuser's disposal 24 hours a day. Shortly after starting to live with Dave, Kelly cut off contact with all her family members and friends. She had virtually no communication with them. She neither visited her family nor called them. She only sent a few postcards, which were also written by Dave, identifiable by his handwriting. Up to this point in the case, we've talked about Kelly's life and her family and understood how she lived her life until late 1995. The question that arises is, what about Dave Smith? What was Dave's past? Why was he dating a teenage girl at the age of 32? Did he have a family? First of all, Dave Smith told two big lies to Kelly and the Bates family. First, his name wasn't Dave at all, but James Patterson Smith, and from now on, we will also call him Smith. And second, Smith was not 32 years old. This man was born in 1948 and was 48 years old. This means that in 1993, Kelly was 14 and Smith was 45. James Patterson Smith was 1 year older than Kelly's father. Smith was a divorced and unemployed man living in Manchester. According to his neighbors, he was a tidy and polite man. He never touched alcohol and didn't smoke. He got married in the 70s, and his relationship ended after 10 years in 1980. The reason for the divorce was that he had a violent relationship with his wife and would beat her. Between 1980 and 1982, James Smith entered into a relationship with a 20-year-old woman named Tina Watson. According to the information we have, Smith treated Tina like a punching bag during these 2 years. Even when Tina was pregnant, she was still subjected to severe assault and beatings. Tina said about her relationship with Smith, "At first, everything was fine, sometimes just a light tap, but eventually it got to the point where he would punch me in the face or smash an ashtray over my head or kick me between my legs." Tina Watson managed to escape this relationship. When she told Smith she wanted to leave him, he tried to drown her in the bathtub. Tina ended the relationship in 1982 and never saw Smith again. In that exact same year, immediately after Tina left, Smith met and abused a 15-year-old girl named Wendy. He treated Wendy just like Tina, and his abuse went so far that he once held Wendy's head underwater in the kitchen sink to drown her. Fortunately, Smith and Wendy's relationship never became too serious, and Wendy distanced herself from him. Between November 1995 and April 1996, Kelly lived with Smith. In December 1995, she resigned from her part-time job and had no further contact with her family. In March 1996, Kelly's parents received a few postcards from their daughter, but none were in Kelly's handwriting and had been written by Smith. Kelly's brother once went to visit his sister and tried to see her, but Smith didn't open the door and said Kelly wasn't home at the moment. The girl was so rarely seen outside the house that even the neighbors became worried. During the last few months, only one neighbor briefly saw Kelly at the window of the upper floor of Smith's house. On November 16, 1996, James Patterson Smith went to the police station and said he had accidentally killed his girlfriend. He said they had an argument in the bathtub, and during the quarrel and physical fight, bathwater entered the girl's lungs and she lost her life. He said he tried to resuscitate Kelly but was unsuccessful. After hearing Smith's statement, police forces went to his house, and the scene they encountered was far, far worse than Smith's claims. The senior investigating officer on the case said about Kelly Bates's condition, "I have been working in the police force for 15 years, and before Kelly Bates, I had never seen a case that was so horrific. Police found Kelly's naked body in the bedroom. Traces of blood were visible all over the house, and although the girl had been drowned, there were much more severe injuries on her body. The autopsy showed that more than 150 injuries had been inflicted on her body. In the last month, her hands and feet were always tied. Sometimes, after tying Kelly's hands and feet, Smith would tie her hair to a radiator. The pathologist for this case stated that throughout his professional career, he had examined about 600 murder victims, but none of them had such severe injuries. What other injuries were on Kelly's body? From this point on, it may be very disturbing and upsetting. If you think you will feel sick, please do not listen. Blisters from burns on her buttocks and left leg. Severe burns on her thigh, caused by a hot iron. A broken arm. Multiple wounds from a knife, fork, and scissors. A stab wound inside her mouth. Signs of crushed bones in both hands. Her ears, nose, eyebrows, lips, and genitals had been cut. Wounds from cuts made with gardening shears. Both eyes had been gouged out with fingers. Deep wounds from stabbing into the empty eye sockets. Part of her scalp had been torn off. Crushed knees so the victim couldn't walk. The case pathologist determined that both of Kelly Bates's eyes had been gouged out about 3 weeks before her death. Kelly had lost about 20 kilograms, approx. 44 pounds. She had not had water for several days before her death, and the fact that she was thirsty for days and her cause of death was drowning is very tragic. The prosecutor said about Kelly's condition. Smith had destroyed Kelly's face to inflict the maximum amount of pain, to make her feel humiliated and miserable. The girl's injuries were not the result of a single fight. They were not caused by sudden violence. Smith had been physically torturing Kelly for a long time and was carrying out this crime systematically. The primary cause of death was declared as drowning in the bathtub. Immediately before her death, Smith had struck Kelly on the head twice with the shower head. These blows caused Kelly to lose consciousness and drown in the bathtub. We don't know exactly how long Kelly endured this torture, but she was in this state for at least a month. A month during which she spent 3 weeks without eyes. She was burned with an iron, stabbed in her empty eye sockets, her knees and hands were broken, and she suffered other horrific injuries. Imagine that with this situation, Smith went to the police and said he had accidentally drowned his girlfriend. The police were shocked and explained the condition of the body to him, as if Smith was unaware. Guess what he said? Smith told the police that he had done all these things with Kelly's consent. Kelly was a masochist. She enjoyed being hurt and was completely willing. I don't know how he thought he could present such a crime scene as a sadomasochistic relationship and say the victim wanted to be harmed herself. The victim's eyes had been gouged out, and the bones in her body were practically crushed, and Smith's justification was that she asked for it. After the body was found, Kelly's father had to see his daughter's body in this condition to confirm her identity. Kelly's father said, "People have called Smith an animal, but even an animal wouldn't do this to a living creature. James Smith is the devil himself." I think about how much pain Kelly endured. She must have thought we didn't love her anymore because we didn't save her from this situation. In court, James Patterson Smith pleaded not guilty and claimed Kelly had always angered him with her behavior. He said she would swear at his dead mother and also self-harm to make things worse for Smith. All the injuries on Kelly's body were clearly inflicted by another person, but Smith insisted that Kelly had self-harmed. When asked in court why he had gouged out Kelly's eyes and blinded her, then stabbed her empty eye sockets with a knife and broke her bones, Smith replied, "Because she asked me to. She challenged me to hurt her." A psychiatrist who was present in court stated, "This man suffers from a severe paranoid disorder along with pathological jealousy and lives in a distorted reality in his mind." After the evidence was presented in court, the jury found 49-year-old James Smith guilty after only 1 hour. The judge sentenced the man to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years and said to Smith, "This was a horrific case, a catalog of the worst atrocities one human being can inflict upon another. You are an abusive man who preys on women. I will try, to the best of my ability, to ensure you never have the opportunity to harm anyone again." James Patterson Smith became eligible for parole in 2017. Based on what the judge said in court, I personally don't think he will be granted parole. But the undeniable fact remains that the man who did all those horrific things to 16-year-old Kelly Bates is now 77 years old. I was 15. He is still alive and could be released from prison at any moment and return to society. The parole situation in Britain is not like in America. A life sentence in Britain is 20 to 30 years, and theoretically, all prisoners who receive a life sentence can apply for a review after 20 to 30 years. But it is rare for their case to be reviewed in their favor, and for them to be released. In a way, you could say that after 20, 30 years, they are in a state of limbo, where it's unclear how long they will be imprisoned, and whether they will be released or not. If they are lucky, they might actually be released. In criminal trials, jury members are offered counseling, and it is rare for a large number of members to see a psychologist after the trial ends. After the photos of Kelly's body were shown and the trial concluded, for the first time in British history, all members of the jury went to see a psychologist.